I felt this class was fitting. It's something I've been wanting to teach on the streets because we come across a lot of people that are depressed out there when we're teaching on the street corners and everything. But you know, again, if it be the Most High's will, I will teach this on the streets. But this message, I feel, has to go to the masses because our people are in a deep slump, a deep depression. So, like always, let's open up to the book of Colossians, chapter 3 and verse 17. And whatsoever ye do in word or deed, do all in Bashama Mashiach Yahushai, giving thanks to the Most High and the Father by Shama Mashiach Yahushai. Okay, so depression is a mood disorder that causes a persistent feeling of sadness and loss of interest, right? This is something that I've always known, I've always noticed inside our community, the so-called Black and Hispanic community. Some of the factors that play a role in this is genetic factors, biological factors, environmental factors, and psychological factors. Some Black people may face unique risk factors for depressions, including exposure to racial trauma, right? Difficult life circumstances due to racism and racial barriers to access care, including racism from care providers and mental health stigma, right? You know, we all have heard the stories about, malpractice, things happening to our people when they are under the hands of people of another nation, because other nations aren't going to put that same care into our people. So this is what it's talking about in the medical field, right? Let me read on again. Depression is a mood disorder that causes a persistent feeling of sadness and loss of interest, also called major depressive disorder or clinical depression. It affects how you feel, think, and behave, and can lead to a variety of emotional and physical problems. You may have trouble doing normal day-to-day activities, and sometimes you may feel as if life isn't worth living, right? Before I move on, let me actually get a quick precept, right? This is the book of Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 1 and verse 12. It says, seek not death in the era of your life. So when things are going bad, you're down and out, you feel that life is not worth living anymore. The scripture teaches us to seek not death in the era of your life. So we shouldn't look towards deleting ourselves, self-deletion, erasing ourselves from here, and pull not upon yourselves destruction with the works of your hands, right? Self-deletion. We should never, ever see that as a means to an end of your problems and your depression, right? So let's look at some of the symptoms of depression. Although depression may occur only once during your life, people typically have multiple episodes. During these episodes, symptoms occur most of the day, nearly every day, and may include feeling of sadness, tearfulness, emptiness, or hopelessness, angry outbursts, irritability, or frustration, even over small matters, loss of interest or pleasure in most or all normal activities such as sex, hobbies, or sports, sleep disturbance, including insomnia or sleeping too much, tiredness and lack of energy, or even small tasks take extra effort, reduced appetite and weight loss, or increased cravings for food and weight gain, anxiety, agitation, or restlessness, slow thinking, speaking, or body movements, feeling of worthlessness or guilt, fixating on past failures or self-blame, trouble thinking, concentrating, making decisions, and remembering things, frequent or recurrent thoughts of death, self-deletion thoughts, self-deletion attempt, unexplained physical problems such as back pain or headaches. For many people with depression, symptoms usually are severe enough to cause noticeable problems in day-to-day activities, such as work, school, social activities, or relationships with others. Some people may feel generally miserable or unhappy without really knowing why. So we all know people like this. or it may even be ourselves sometimes, right? Because this is the captivity that we are in, right? Because we didn't want to be obedient to the Most High. So now we deal with chronic depression, right? Let's look at the book of Isaiah, chapter 48 and verse 1. Hear ye this, O house of Jacob, you Israelites, you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, which are called by the name of Israel and are come forth out of the waters of Judah. So the statistics that I'll be using during this class predominantly is going to be based on the so-called African American, right? But these statistics pertain also to the Hispanics and Native Americans as well, right? So when you see the stats and it just says African American on it, don't think this is not talking about Mexicans, Puerto Ricans, Native American Indians, and so forth, because the scripture says that. Let me read that again. And are come forth out of the waters of Judah, meaning all tribes come out of the waters of Judah. So this depression affects all 12 tribes. Let me read again. Hear ye this, O house of Jacob, which are called by the name of Israel, and are come forth out of the waters of Judah, which swear by the name of the Most High, and make mention of the power of Israel, but not in truth nor in righteousness. Okay, so studies that have explored the prevalence and distribution of major depressive disorder in African Americans, non-Hispanic Caucasians Americans, and Caribbean African Americans have found that overall lifetime prevalence of major depressive disorder among Caucasians was 17.9%, as opposed to African Americans, whose prevalence estimate was only 10.4%. Well, you say, well, hold up. It looks like Caucasians are having more depression. Well, let's read on. The difference between African Americans and Caucasian lies in the fact that chronicity of disease was higher for African Americans, meaning the ongoing effect of it. It's a lifelong thing when it comes to our people, to the Israelites. When it comes to Caucasians, it may be just a one-time thing. Maybe someone's family member passed away, right? Somebody may have lost their job and whatnot. So that's what that's talking about. And then they get over it. So it says was higher for African Americans, 56%, than it was for Caucasian patients, 38.6%. Among this percentage, fewer than half of these African Americans sought treatment for their depression, right? We know that our people, we don't go to the health. We don't go to the seek medical attention. Why? Because the things that have happened to us in the past, the Tuskegee experiment, malpractice everywhere, we've heard the stories, right? So what do? We said we don't need no psychologist, right? That Jack Daniels is my psychologist, right? The rum is my psychologist. The whiskey is my psychologist, right? And we teach this to our family members. You don't need to go see nobody about this stuff, right? Just have yourself a drink, smoke yourself a blunt, and you'll be all right. People die every day, B. You remember that? Money Making Mitch, I'm paid in full. Among this percentage, fewer than half of these African Americans sought treatment for their depression. Although when asked to qualify their disease, they would rate their condition as severe or disabling. So when our people, the Israelites, were asked to say what's the scale, what's the number on a scale from 1 to 10, they said it was severe or disabling, meaning they couldn't really function. It says, thus this study concluded that the burden of depression was shouldered more heavily on African Americans than it was on Caucasians in the United States, leading to an overall greater degree of functional impairment. Meaning you can go about your day-to-day activities, but in your mind, at the frontlets of your mind is your trauma, what you've been through, your stress, but you're going grocery shopping, you're doing your job, you're doing everything you need to do, but you're doing this as a sick person, as a sick Israelite man or woman, right? So you're a functional, you're functional, but you're impaired at the same time. Some studies argue that African Americans may have lower rates of depression when compared to non-Hispanic Caucasians due to the resilient nature of the community and greater religious support, right? Because see, it's in our DNA to actually serve the Most High. It's in our DNA to praise the Most High, right? But we do it in word only, not in deed and in action, right? So that's in us. We have that gene in us that's dormant and is waiting to come out. And most high willing, this class will help it come out more so we can get over this depression and get a cure for it. Caucasians, due to the resilient nature of the community and greater religious support, but even these studies agree that these patients often tend to be underdiagnosed or misdiagnosed. These studies also acknowledge that African Americans who are diagnosed with depression often tend to have more serious, chronic, and severely debilitating disease. So Israelites have altered DNA, right? So this is an excerpt from the largest DNA study of African ancestry. Black Americans have altered DNA from slavery and trauma. This was written by Ann Brown. In 2020, a large DNA study traced the violent history of American slavery and found that trauma changed the DNA of Black Americans. So in our DNA, right, it shows that slavery impacted and actually altered how we move today. So we are not those same people because our DNA has been greatly altered and changed. Joanna Mountain, Senior Director of Research at 23andMe, spearheaded the study over 10 years ago. She and her team built a genetic database. The participants in the study were primarily 23andMe customers whose grandparents were born in one of the geographic regions of transatlantic slavery. The New York Times reported the study included more than 50,000 people, among them 30,000 with African ancestry whose ancestors were enslaved in the Americas. The report, which was published in the American Journal of Human Genetics, illustrated how much physical and sexual violence were part of slavery and how they are still built into our society, right? I.e., look at people like Nicki Minaj, Sexy Red, Cardi B, Suki Hana, and the list goes on, right? Because that trauma is inside of them and they act it out by sexual acts, right? And they pass that on down because, again, our DNA has been altered because of the trauma that happened in slavery. So we become now sexually promiscuous at a early age. It says, and violence that has persisted for generations. And that, let me start over. It confirmed the mistreatment, discrimination, sexual abuse, and violence that was persisted for generations, and that many people are protesting today, said Dr. Alondra Nelson, a professor of social science at the Institute of Advanced Study in Princeton, New Jersey, who was not involved in the study. Stephen Micheletti, a population geneticist at 23andMe, told the AFP news agency that the aim was to compare the genetic results with the manifest of slave ships to see how they agreed and how they disagreed. The study found that the treatment of enslaved women across the Americas impacted the modern gene pool. You see that? So how our foremothers was treated has now affected the affected the women as of today, right? Through that mitochondrial DNA. According to the researchers, a strong bias towards African female contributions in the gene pool, even though most enslaved people were male, could be attributed to the rape of enslaved African women by slave owners and other sexual exploitation, the BBC reported. While great of African women did occur in the U.S. because of the ideal of racial purity, so this did happen, right? And this also speaks on another fact, how people say that, well, you don't know because your father could be a so-called Edomite because a lot of rape happened during slavery. Well, let's see what this article says right here. It says women did occur in the U.S. because of the ideal of racial purity. There was less mixing between races, and slaves were often encouraged or forced to have children with other slaves to increase the labor pool, the scientists reported. So you see that? It wasn't as much children being born from grape as people will lead you to believe, right? Because we know that the Caucasian race has recessive and non-dominant genes. So they were not just impregnating every single Israelite woman that they lay with. That's just impossible. Because why are their populations decreasing as of today if it's so strong? But that speaks on to another point. Trauma can be inherited, passed down through the generations due to changes in DNA, according to other research. of the research. This is known as epigenetics. Scientific American reported, but researchers at the University of Zurich found that a positive experience can reverse the effects of trauma, which can be transmitted to the offspring, right? So it's telling us that positive experiences can actually reverse the effects of trauma, right? And this is what we're going to get into. What are those positive effects that we need to do as a people so we can reverse the depression amongst our community, amongst us as Israelites, and we can return back to who we once were, right? In all of our greatness and above all people, right? Proverbs 27 and verse 23. Be thou diligent to know the state of thy flocks. So the job of the pastor, the job of the preacher, right, is to know the state of the flock, the state of the congregation. So the state, the circumstances, the position in society, temporary attributes of a person or thing, conditions, right? So your pastor, the pastor of these churches, is supposed to know the mindset and the mental stability of the people inside his congregation. But guess what? The pastor is mentally ill. He's been traumatized. So he can't possibly know the state of his flock, right? He's not thinking with a full deck of cards there, right? And the Christian church has been around for, forever, since the induction of us coming here off the western shores of Africa. Christianity has been with us, and the state of our people has steadily declined year after year after year. Things have gotten worse, right? Because the pastor doesn't know how to treat a woman that has been sexually abused. The pastor does not know he doesn't know the scriptures to go to deal with drug addiction, right? The pastor doesn't go to the Old Testament and goes through the book of Deuteronomy chapter 28 and highlight and point out the curses on our people and say, you're dealing with this, brother, you're dealing with this, sister, because you have abandoned the laws of the Most High. Once you return back to the laws of the Most High, your state of mentality, how you think, how you move, all that will greatly change. Let me read that again. Be thou diligent, right? Diligent. The pastor must use diligent, meaning steadily on it, checking in on his people, to know the state of thy flocks and look well to thy herds. Let's look at the book of Psalms, chapter 143 and verse 3. For the enemy have persecuted my soul. Who is the enemy? These nations around us, chiefly the so-called Caucasian. It says, for the enemy have persecuted my soul. He have smitten my life down to the ground, right? This is talking about depression. He has beaten you down so bad, right? When you hear about your son, little Jermaine, going out to the corner store, and then he gets pulled over, right? And he gets pulled over, and then the cops, they plant, a bag of dope in a 22 underneath his seat. And they say, what do we got here? Right? And now his life is ruined because that was his third strike. And now he's locked up for life. This is the enemy persecuting the soul. And then what happens to the mama, right? The mama, she's sad. She's having to do everything herself now because Lord Jermaine, right? He was the only man of the house that was providing and help taking care of his younger siblings, right? And now mama, she gets hooked on crack and fentanyl and all types of drugs because she just don't know what to do anymore. And the children are just left there to fend for themselves, or they're given to the state. This is what causes depression in our people. It says, he hath smitten my life down to the ground. He hath made me to dwell in darkness, as though that have been long dead. You see that? Our ancestors that were on those slave ships, they are long dead, right? But we are living here this day, and guess what? We are suffering from the trauma that was passed down to them, to us. It was passed down through the DNA. Therefore is my spirit overwhelmed with me. We see that as no hope, because our problems, our issues, they have taken fully over us, where we just don't know what to do anymore. Therefore is my spirit overwhelmed within me. My heart, meaning your mind, The heart is the mind. So when we want to go through some precepts, and it's going to say heart, but it's talking about your mind. My heart within me is desolate, meaning empty. You're walking around with that woe is me spirit on your face, right? Head always down. You don't want to participate. You don't want to be involved in anything. You just feel like everything is just like over. There's no hope. Let's look at the book of Psalms, chapter 143 and verse 5. I remember the days of old. I meditate on all thy works, right? So you think about the times when things were good, right? You think about the times when things were good, and when did it start to getting worse, right? What was that triggering moment? What was that traumatizing moment? Maybe it could have been, you as a little boy, and you seen your father, get shot, gunned down by the police. And then from the age of 10 years old, 11 years old, when that happened, you haven't been the same ever since. And now you're 30 years old, right? And now you're suffering from arrested development because you never moved forward from seeing your father getting gunned down. Or maybe you're that little girl, right, that was sexually abused by your mama's boyfriend, and you just never moved past that. And now you're older in life, and you're now dealing with man after man after man, right? And you dibble and dabble in homosexuality, right? These are things that happen to our people. They remember the days when it was good, and then that trauma happened, and then they forget it all, right? They forget all the good things of life. And all they can think about is how life is bad. It says, I muse on the work of thy hands. I stretch forth my hands unto thee. My soul thirsteth after thee as a thirsty land. So your soul is thirsting for the Most High, right? And it's simple as just taking steps towards Him and keeping His laws, statutes, and commandments, right? That's what's going to make you not dehydrated of the word anymore. That's what's going to make your body not a desolate desert anymore, right? Selah. Hear me speedily, O Most High. My spirit faileth. Hide not thy face from me, lest I be like unto them that go down into the pit, meaning the ones that go down into the grave, right? These are things that you can do right now while you are alive this day, right? It's call out to the Most High. Ask Him for guidance. Ask Him for help, right? Before it's too late and your body goes down to the grave. Let's look at the book of Psalms, chapter 88 and verse 6. Thou hast laid me in the lowest pit, right? Put us on hell. That's what the so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native American man and woman and child are at, in the lowest pit. We are in the reservations, right? We are in the ghettos, the slums, the projects, the traps, right? That's what we lay at. That's what we be at. That's our life. That's our environment. Thou hast laid me in the lowest pit, in darkness, in the deeps. You see that? Let's look at Psalm chapter 13, verse 2. How long shall I take counsel in my soul? Like, how long am I gonna say I'll just get some liquor. I'll just get some Jose Cuervo, right? I'll just take some pills, right? I'll just take this heroin shot. It says, how long shall I take counsel in my soul, having sorrow in my heart daily? That's that chronic depression, because every single day you thinking about your brother, who was your best friend, and how he got shot, and how he's living, how he's doing a life bid behind the wall, right? Or thinking about your daughter, right? Who's not a prostitute. It says, having sorrow in my heart daily. How long shall my enemy be exalted over me? How long is Esau going to be exalted over me? Right? How long is Esau going to keep on throwing me inside of the prison and throwing away the key? Consider and hear me, O Most High, my power. Lighten my eyes. He said, open my eyes, right? Give me some eye salve, right? So I can see what's going on. So I can get out of this predicament that I'm in, that I'm constantly finding myself in day and night. How I'm groping. Matter of fact, hold on 1 second. Let me get a precept real quick. Deuteronomy chapter 28. And let me see what I want. Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 29. And thou shalt grope at noonday. So we read it in the book of Psalms that this is a everyday sorrow. Your heart, your mind is always thinking about depression and being down in the dumps. This is Deuteronomy 20 and verse 29. And thou shalt grope at noonday, right? As the blind gropeth in darkness. And thou shalt not prosper in thy ways. And thou shalt be only oppressed and spoiled evermore. And no man shall save thee. You see that? So you're groping, you're feeling in sorrow, you're feeling in pain all day long. It says, jump back to the book of Psalms, chapter 13 and verse 3. Consider and hear me, O Most High, my power. Lighten mine eyes, lest I sleep the sleep of death. It says, open up my eyes before I'm completely destroyed, and I have no chance of repenting and getting out of this situation. I live my life in pain and agony just now to catch the lake of fire. That's the second death. Verse 4, lest my enemy say, I have prevailed against him, and those that trouble me rejoice when I am moved. But I have trusted in thy mercy. My heart shall rejoice in thy salvation. Let's look at Proverbs chapter 12 and verse 25. Heaviness in the heart, in the mind, right? Heaviness in the mind of man maketh it stoop, meaning it's going to bring you down. But a good word maketh it glad. Now, what's the good word? Let's see what that is. Let's go to the book of St. Matthew, chapter 4 and verse 4. But he answered and said, it is written, man shall not live by bread alone, right? But by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of the Most High, right? So that's the good word. That's the word that's going to make you glad. The words of the Most High, right? But a lot of our people don't want to hear these words, right? Brothers try every single day. It's literally, you can go to the internet, to YouTube at any given time to hear the word of the Most High, right? To bring you out of your situation. You literally can go to any given city at the chief place of Concord every single Sabbath day and find a brother teaching the words of the Most High, and you can ask your questions and you can get healed and get delivered from the trauma that you're in, right? You can literally circulate and pass and share this video, right? But what do our people say? What do our people do? They don't want to hear the words of the Most High because it's a heavy spirit on top of them. And that spirit that's on top of them is not the spirit of the Most High, but the spirit of Hashatan, who the world calls Satan. That's heavily on our people. You got King Von that said he started the whole demon time thing. Now everybody's on demon time. Every little girl is talking about taking a Plan B and some Hennessy, right? Everybody's on demon time today. Let's look at the book of Proverbs chapter 15 and verse 13. A merry heart, a merry mind, right, maketh a cheerful countenance. And we see how you get a merry heart, how you get a merry mind. You follow the word of the Most High. That simple. A merry heart maketh a cheerful countenance, meaning you're not going to walk around with that depressed look on your face anymore. You're not going to walk around with that woe is me spirit anymore. But by sorrow of the heart, the spirit is broken. So the children of Israel are a whole bunch of broken people that are living on the reservations, right? And you got that Native American brother that just can't stop drinking because he's thinking about how all his land was taken and how he was pushed into a corner of a reservation, right? And that casino that everybody thinks that they have and own and whatnot is actually not part of his, but it actually belongs to a $5 Indian who's really a Caucasian, and that just claimed his forefathers said that pretty much paid $5 to be registered on the DOS rolls and claim his inheritance. And he has to look at that from like 2-3 miles away, a big, huge casino that he really doesn't own, but the world thinks that he owns. And he's just drinking his life to death, drinking himself to death, right? So this is our people, brokenhearted. Let's look at the book of Proverbs, chapter 17 and verse 20. He that hath a froward heart, what is froward? Turned against, a perverse, a disobedient, peevish, petulant, adverse, difficult mind. You see that? So he that hath a disobedient mind findeth no good. So if you want to be disobedient, you don't want to come back to the Most High, guess what? You will never find good. So when someone asks you how you doing, you say, I'm doing good. Like hell you are. It says, he that hath a disobedient mind findeth no good. And he that hath a perverse, right? A perverse, a wicked, an unnatural, a degenerate, a contrary tongue falleth into mischief, right? And that happens. That's on every major city here in America, is mischief happening from our people. What's the lick? What's the next thing that we're going to get into, right? Verse 22, a merry heart doeth good like a medicine. So if you have a happy mind, that's like medicine. These scriptures are medicine. That's why it's called the scriptures. Because in the word prescription, you have the word script, right? Which goes to scripture. So the scriptures is your prescription, right? But our people take prescriptions like fentanyl and heroin and all types of opioids to heal the pain. And their bones stay dry and they stay dead in the graves, in the projects, in the tombs, in the ghettos, right? A merry heart doeth good like a medicine, but a broken spirit drieth the bones. Let's look at Psalm chapter 56 and verse 3. What time I am afraid, I will trust in thee. So when you are afraid, right? When you feel like all hope is gone, you open up that scriptures. You call that brother or you call that sister, right? So they can give you the words of the Most High. And the Most High will praise his word. But we don't know that we should praise the Most High's word, right? Because the pastor has abandoned his flock, has abandoned his herd. It says, in the Most High, I will praise his word. In the Most High, I have put my trust. I will not fear what flesh can do unto me. You're not going to fear what the man can do to you, right? You're only going to fear what the Most High can do to you. Every day they wrest my words. They wrestle with my words. That's what our people do. We wrestle with the words of the Most High. Like, should I do this or should I not do this? Every day they wrestle my words. All their thoughts are against me for evil. You see that? On a deeper level, our people, we have evil thoughts all the day long. right? But once you come back to the Most High, you're not going to wrestle with His words. Although people in the world, they wrestle with our words. When we tell our brothers and our sisters, hey, you're an Israelite, they wrestle against that. They fight against that. They said, nah, I'm just a nigga. I'm a black man. I'm from Chicago. I'm a vice lord, right? I'm a Crip. I'm a blood. They want to wrestle and fight against that. When you tell them, no, you an Israelite. No, I'm a Moor. I'm a Muslim. That's what they say to you. Every day they wrestle my words because everybody wants to do their own thing. When the Most High says, I give you something so easy, but you want to be your own thing because you think that you have the power, that you created everything. So that pride comes into you and you get real pompous. It says, and every day they wrestle my words. All their thoughts are against me for evil. They gather themselves together. They hide themselves. They mark my steps when they wait for my soul. See that? Let's look at the book of Psalms, chapter 10 and verse 4. The wicked, through the pride of his countenance, will not seek after the Most High. Now that's heavy right here. People that don't want to follow this word, Israelites that don't want to follow this word, right? They're not going to seek after the Most High. The Most High is not in all his thoughts. So you don't think about the Most High all the time, right? You think about what you got going on. This word is supposed to be at the frontlets of your eyelids. But it says, again, it says, the wicked, through the pride of his countenance, because you have so much pride, you just can't do that. Through the pride of his countenance, will not seek after the Most High. The Most High is not in all his thoughts. He don't think about the Most High. He don't think about keeping the commandment. He or she don't think about the Sabbath day. His ways are always grievous. Thy judgments are far above, out of his sight. They don't think the reason why they're going through what they're going through is because they are being disobedient to the Most High. They say that's not the reason why I'm going through what I'm going through. I'm going through what I'm going through because I'm not making enough money, right? So I got to get another job, right? And I got to continue to work and work and work and work. They don't think about they're going through what they're going through because it's the Most High telling you, you need to come back to me. His ways are always grievous. Thy judgments are far above, out of his sight. As for all his enemies, he puffeth at them. He hath said in his mind, I shall not be moved. Nobody can tell me what to do. I got it all figured out, right? For I shall never be in adversity. What does that mean, adversity? A condition of misfortune, hardship, distress, calamity, hostility, difficulty, malice. I will never feel that. For I shall never have any problems at all as long as I'm able to get this lick, as long as I'm able to get this dope sold, as long as I'm able to work a third job. His mouth is full of cursing, right? We know our people. They got some filthy mouths. We know our people. We know the people that are dealing with this type of depression because they always cursing for no reason whatsoever. When a curse word does not need to be there, they just cursing. His mouth is full of cursing and deceit, lying to themselves, lying to you, lying about their situation, and fraud. Under his tongue is mischief and vanity. Having all these problems, right? But still trying to get into some mischief, right? Still trying to go to that nightclub, trying to go and wear that tight mini skirt, trying to go and hop into SRT with their friends and the Hellcat and ski yeet all the night long, right? Ready to get into something, right? Vanity, fake butts, fake faces. You know, now men are getting men BBLs,
where they get their legs broken and their ankles broken and their ankles stretched so they can be 6 foot tall. Like, this place is just madness. You can't even say it's just sisters anymore. Now it's men. Men are competing with women, putting on nail polish. I seen a man get some lashes. Why are men now going to the lash bar? Like, this is just madness right here. You know, forget about men just wearing the purses. Men are just going out getting full-on sets, right? Let's move on. Resilience. So let's see if we can get see what resilience is, right? So resilience, it's the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties, toughness, right? That's what resilience is. This is what the so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native American man and woman need, is resilience, right? Let's look at Philippians chapter 3 and verse 13. Brethren, I count not myself to have apprehended. So Paul is saying, look, I don't say I got it all. I'm myself, me, Sadiq. Don't say I have it all, right? I don't say I've apprehended and I got the kingdom right now, right? But let's read on. But this one thing I do know, right? Forgetting those things which are behind, meaning forgetting who I used to be, how I used to be a nigga, right? In the streets of America. I forget about that, and I don't let those thoughts weigh heavy on my mind. I forget about everything that I used to do inside of the past. I don't carry that burden with me anymore. I use it for teaching and for experience when I see myself, my past self, in a former brother or a former sister, and say, hey, I've been there, done that, right? But it says, forgetting those things which are behind and reaching forth unto those things which are before. What's before you? Life is before you, and life abundantly. What I think our people don't really look at is that you have less time on the earth than you had before, right? Because every single day that goes by, you're getting closer to the grave, closer to death, because you don't know what that day has in store for you. The one thing that you can do, though, is say, this moment, this second, I'm going to make a change for the better. You don't know if the next minute, in the next 3 minutes, the Most High is going to give you a heart attack. Because guess what? Somebody around the world right now is having a heart attack. Right now, the paramedics is at somebody's house trying to resuscitate them and bring them back to life. Right now, somewhere in the world, this is happening to an Israelite. A so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native American man or woman is ODing with a heroin needle in their veins because life just became too much for them. Let that really sink in on you. So whatever you're dealing with is not as bad. Is not as bad as you think it is, because there's some people that are now seconds away from death and they have no option to repent. They have no option to come back and return back to the Most High. It's just not there for them anymore. But this moment right here is here for you. You have the option to repent and to come back to who you are and to take your crown, right? To take your crown of authority. Let me get a quick precept real quick. This is the book of Lamentations. The book of Lamentations, chapter 5 and verse 16. The crown is fallen from our head. So the Israelites, we used to be royalty. Woe unto us, destruction, that we have sinned. For this our heart, meaning our mind, is faint. For these things our eyes are dim. Are dim. What are these things? Sin, and more sin. It's making our eyes dim, meaning we are now becoming more and more blind, right? It says, because of the mountain of Zion, which is desolate, destroyed. The Israelites are destroyed. The foxes walk upon it. Who are the foxes? These other nations. They walk upon us. So let's go back to Philippians chapter 3 and verse 14. I press toward the mark. What's the mark? The kingdom. for the prize of the high calling of the Most High in Hamashiach Yahushai, right? Because it's not going to be no depression in the kingdom. And if you're a depressed person right now, you need to change that so you can make it into the kingdom. Because you're not going to be in the kingdom, but and you think that it's not it's time for the Most High to wipe away your depression. No, you have to make that change today. Just a quick story, real quick. At my job, right? You know, I drive for a living, and at my job, I pass by this one cemetery, right? And every time I pass by this cemetery, it's the same Israelite brother there with a speaker. He has a Cadillac outside of the cemetery, right? Outside the cemetery grounds, and he has flowers, and he's sitting in like one of those foldable lawn chairs, right? And I see him there all the time at the same cemetery plot, right? And I can just imagine it's probably a lost brother or a mother or a sister or a best friend, and he's playing those oldies but goodies to him, as if that person inside of that grave can hear what's going on. Now, that person that's inside of that grave, his spirit is up with the Most High. Him or her, that spirit is up with the Most High. But that brother that is sitting there, he is in the error. Every single day he is unclean because he's going to a cemetery. And the law tells us if you step foot on a cemetery ground, you're unclean. He is in deep depression because he is thinking about a person who is at rest right now. And so he is not moving on with his life anymore. His life has completely stopped for however many hours that guy is there. And I see this guy on a daily basis, right? So this is how serious depression is in our people. But we must build up resilience and toughness, right? We all have people that we lost. We all have people that are locked up in jail, in prison, right? That we may never see again. But guess what? You have to seek forward to the mark to gain that prize, which is the kingdom. So resilience in Christ. Let's look at the book of St. Luke, chapter 22 and verse 40. And when he was at the place, he said unto them, pray that ye enter not into temptation. That's very heavy, because Hamashiach Yahushai is telling his disciples to pray that they enter not into temptation. What is temptation? It's the act of enticing someone to sin. When you think it's all bad, right? And you say, you lost somebody and you got your peers around you and they say, let's just get drunk and let's just pop a pill. That's temptation to sin. You just got out of that bad marriage, right? And that person is all you can think about, right? And your girls will say, let's go out and let's just have a few drinks and let's just have sex with the next dude that comes by so you can get that nigga spirit off of you. These are things that happen sad to say, but these are things that happen in our community. It says act of enticing someone to sin and experience or state of being tempted. That's what temptation is, right? That's what's going to lead to all your problems. It's the thing that you do after the traumatic situation has happened, right? So going back to the instance of you losing someone, that person is gone now, right? Now, the problem is the thing that you have to really worry about is what do you do next after you lost that person? Do you just wild out? Or do you say, you know what? I missed that person. That happened. Now I'm moving on with my life though. Because when you sit back and you dwell on these things, you are actually the selfish person, the selfish one. Because you think that's all about you. You think that everything revolves around you, and that makes you selfish. Because you have people that are now depending on you. You have children. You have brothers and loved ones that are still living, right? That are dependent on you. So it's a selfish act to go off the deep end and fall into drugs and lust and fornication and all types of sorcery and witchcraft. That's a sin. Let's read on. Verse 41. and he was withdrawn from them about a stone's cast. So Hamashiach Yahushai, he walked a little distance so he can go pray, right? So we're talking about depression. We're about to see the most ultimate form of depression ever. So right when you think that you got the weight of the world on your shoulders and stuff like that, well, let's see the depression that Hamashiach Yahushai had in the spirit that he was in. And he was withdrawn from them about a stone's cast and kneeled down and prayed, saying, Father, if thou be willing. Christ is our example. Remember that, right? So we're supposed to do exactly what Christ did. Saying, Father, if thou be willing, remove this cup from me. He said, remove this burden from me. Don't let me be hung up. Don't let me get whooped. Don't let me get scourged by the so-called Caucasian man. Don't let me get put up on that tree. He said, saying, Father, if thou be willing, remove this cup from me. Nevertheless, not my will. That's a cut to thinking that you have free will, because Christ said he don't even got free will. He said, nevertheless, not my will, but thine be done. Let your will be done. And there appeared an angel unto him from heaven. So here it is, Hamashiach Yahushai praying to the Most High. And the Most High sends him an angel, strengthening him. This is the same thing that can happen to each and every one of us. We can pray to the Most High and he will send us an angel. And an angel is not going to just come how we think it's going to come, in a ghostly form, right? Angels are also men, right? Men are called angels in the Bible. Let's prove that real quick. Let me get I'm going to look at the book of 2nd Ezra, chapter 1, and let's go to verse 39. The 2nd Ezra, chapter 1 and verse 39, to prove that men are also angels. Unto whom I will give for leaders Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Hosea, Amos, and Micah, Joel, Abdias, and Jonas, Nahum, and Habakkuk, Sinaias, Agius, Zechariah, and Malachi, which is called also an angel of Yahweh. So men can also be angels, right? Let's read on. Verse 43. And there appeared an angel unto him from heaven, strengthening him. So that brother or that sister can strengthen you. And you may want to listen to that brother or that sister, because they may be in a better place than you. They may know just one more scripture that you didn't know, and that scripture that they give you now strengthens you, and you're whole again. Let's read verse 44. And being in agony, so our master, Hamashiach Yahushai, was in agony and pain. He prayed more earnestly. He prayed harder, right? And his sweat was as it were great drops of blood. Now let's think about that. Have you prayed so hard? Have you been under so much stress and depression that when you started sweating, it was blood? This is what our master, Hamashiach Yahushai, went through. He was under so much stress and so much pain that his sweat glands burst, and it mixed and mingled with his blood vessels, and blood was coming out. Now, this is something I bring out a lot during the Passover, but this is also fitting for depression as well. And his sweat was as it were great drops of blood falling down to the ground. This condition is called hematidrosis. Hematidrosis is an extremely rare condition in which you sweat blood. It's also known as hematidrosis and hematidrosis. It's so rare that many people don't know it exists or if it's real. But sweating blood has been seen throughout history. Causes. There isn't much information available on hematidrosis because it's so rare. isn't clearly understood. However, hematidrosis generally happens when a person feels intense fear or stress. Someone facing death may have this kind of fear or stress. For example, when you are under stress, your body goes into fight or flight mode. This is a natural reaction to a perceived threat. It helps us survive potentially dangerous situations. The body releases chemicals while adrenaline and cortisol that prepare us entering to fight or to flee danger. We become more alert and our energy increases. This bodily response is usually temporary and doesn't cause long-term health damage. But in rare instances, the flight or flight response can trigger the rupture of capillaries in the body. Capillaries are tiny blood vessels located throughout the tissue. They carry essential nutrients to different parts of the body. Capillaries are also located around the sweat glands. In cases of severe fear or stress, these tiny blood vessels can burst and cause blood to exit the body through the sweat glands. So that's what happened to our master, Hamashiach Yahushai, who the world calls Jesus Christ. He had that much stress and he was that much depressed that he started sweating blood, all for the sins of the Israelites. Right? All so you can be forgiven of being a whore. All so that you can be forgiven of getting tattoos. All so you can be forgiven of smoking, drinking, being an alcoholic, breaking the Sabbath, being a murderer, being a thief, right? This is why he did that for. All for us. Let's look at the book of St. Luke, chapter 22 and verse 45. And when he rose up from prayer and was come to his disciples, he found them sleeping for sorrow. That's us. While we are sleeping and in our deep sorrow and whatnot, Hamashiach Yahushai, he already paid that cost for our sins. So we shouldn't be under no depression. Because while we were sleeping in our ignorance and our darkness, Hamashiach Yahushai already paid that price for us. So we can come out of whatever we are in right now. Because I dare to say any of us have ever been under so much depression that we started sweating blood. Verse 46, and said unto them, why sleep ye? Why are you asleep? Why aren't you inside of this word? Why aren't you watching? He said, rise and pray. Get up out of your condition. Come up out of that situation that you in of being sad and sorrowful, lest ye enter into temptation. And we read what temptation was. You enter into falling into drugs, liquor, alcohol, whatever it may be. Let's look at the book of 2nd Ezra, chapter 14 and verse 14. Let go from the mortal thoughts. Let go of those mortal thoughts, right? Cast away the burdens of man. Put off now the weak nature. That is weakness. Depression is weakness. It says, put away that weak nature, right? And set aside the thoughts that are most heavy unto thee. And haste thee to flee from these times. We are living in the last days, right? The end times. The Bible tells us to flee in these last days. Stop worrying about what you're going through right now. You better start preparing and get ready for what's about to come. Know that Russia wants to send nukes into outer space and wonder why America is building a space force. Because they are getting ready to fight our master Hamashiach Yahushai. So your breakup, right? Your bills, right? They're not going to amount to nothing in these last days. So it will behoove you to get yourself prepared. First mentally and spiritually, and then physically. Verse 16,
For yet greater evils than those which thou hast seen happen. So what you've seen happen right here, right? Seeing Jermaine get shot, getting gunned down. It said the Bible is telling us that you're going to see greater evils shall be done hereafter. For look, how much the world shall be weaker through age. America has gotten so weak, right? Where you don't know who, if you're talking to a man or a woman anymore, right? You can't even look at a person's birth certificate, because you can now legally change your birth certificate to the sex that you were born from, right? You can't do. It's no more doing the Adam's apple test and see if that sister is really a brother because they got an Adam's apple, right? Welcome to hell, right? Welcome to hell. Look how much the world shall be weaker through age. So much the more shall evils increase. I mean, it's going to get even worse in the time to come. Evils increase upon them that dwell therein. For the truth is fled far away, and leasing is hard at hand. For now hasteth the vision to come, which thou hast seen. So Ezra was given the vision that's going to happen, right? That's what he was given. And that's what's going to happen. And we must return back to the Most High in these last days, because it's getting real serious, and we can't worry about what we got out of depression. You know, we see that was something that happened to us during slavery, and it's been ongoing ever since then. So I'm going to end